Go for it.
Good morning, everyone. It's the one, the only V, the Gorilla Economist, coming to you live with my main man, CJ, aka El Cuco. We're bringing you the news, the views, and all the information that's important to you. With that being said, check out our sponsors, remaincalm.net, remaincalm.net, whether you need funds to do investments, start a business, whatever the heck you need funding, that's the place to go. Go to remaincalm.net, fill out an application, and they will find a lender for you from their network of 335 lenders. Get up to $600,000 unsecured. And also, guys, check out thecryptoschool.io, thecryptoschool.io. Whether you want to learn to trade, you can do that by clicking the Watch Us Trade link, and or you just want to learn how to use the cryptocurrencies, how to use the wallets, how to use the various exchanges. Just click on the basic school. You can watch all the videos, tutorials on how to get it done. Great place. The reviews have been stellar. Go to thecryptoschool.io. And with that being said, CJ, what's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm doing great, man, except for this snow and this cold weather that's decided to return. I mean, I was in shorts and T-shirt just a couple of days ago, and now the winter coats are back out. The snow boots are on. I know you're getting hammered hard on the East Coast.
Man, we got walloped. It was a ridiculous amount of snow. Initially, they were saying 3 to 5 inches. I think that's like, I don't know, 12 to 15 plus. Outside of my window, it was pretty savage, man. Pretty savage, and it's that heavy, wet snow, the type of snow that, if you're old and out of shape, it's going to give you a heart attack. It's just bad, dude. Very bad. So,
yeah, but lots to discuss, lots of great, interesting, a lot of great things that we're doing internally with Rogue. But there's a lot of concern right now for the nation, a lot of concern of the economic climate, the trade climate, the internal conflict. I mean, it's difficult, V, to see through the chaos.
Yeah, exactly correct. There's a lot of chaos. And I think I'm going to start off with our buddy, our friend Jim Rickards. Jim's got a great article out. And it's from the dailyreckoning.com. The Fed must have inflation. Failure is not an option. Jim goes on to write, the Fed says incessantly that quote unquote, price stability is the part of their dual mandate, right? Because the only tools of their trade is either increase the money supply or contract the money supply through inflation and deflation, right? That's the only thing they got. And they do that through the manipulation of credit. And they are committed to maintaining the purchasing power of the dollar. Well, folks, that's been under attack for the last several years, okay? You've been following this channel, you would know that better than anyone. But the Fed has a funny definition of price stability. Common sense says price stability should be zero inflation and zero deflation, which is basically impossible. You cannot have perpetual growth with limited resources. It's an impossibility. This whole thing of balance, right? So this is the problem with the insane liberal mind. Right? They're always seeking this balance, but the balance is just, there's no such thing as balance. There's no such thing as balance anywhere. These people that are, climate change. First it was an ice age, then it was global warming. Now it's this climate change. Yes, dummy, the climate always changes. They would like to make you think that the earth is just this non-chaotic place. It is a very, very chaotic place. So this whole thing of maintaining price stability, this is a technocratic viewpoint. These are the technocrats. These technocrats are always looking for positive balance, which doesn't exist. A dollar 5 years from now should have the same purchasing power as the dollar today, if there is such thing as a balance, correct? But there isn't. Of course, the purchasing power would be on average, since some items are always going up or down in price for reasons that have nothing to do with the Fed. And folks, you already know this. Since the advent of the Federal Reserve System in 1913, the dollar has lost 98%. Let that sink in for a second. 98% of its purchasing power. How do you construct the price index matters. It is an inexact science. But zero inflation seems the target. But the Fed's target is 2%, not zero. Now, if that sounds low, it's not. The inflation of 2% cuts the purchasing power of a dollar in half in 35 years. And in half again in another 35 years. That means an average lifetime of 70 years, 2% will cause the dollar to 75% of its purchasing power. Just 3% inflation will cut the purchasing power of the dollar by almost 90% in the same average lifespan. So why does the Fed target 2% inflation instead of zero? The reason is that if a recession hits, the Fed needs to cut interest rates to get the economy out of recession. Now, if the rates and inflation are already zero, there's nothing to cut. And we'd be stuck in recession indefinitely. That's the situation from 2008 to 2015. The Fed has been gradually increasing the rates so they can cut them in the next recession. But there's a problem. Jim goes on to say that the Fed can raise rates all they want, but they can't produce inflation. Inflation depends on the consumer psychology. We have not had that much consumer price inflation, but we have had huge asset price inflation. I'm going to delve into this, deconstruct it a little bit more. Jim's smart. I give him that, but there's some pieces of the puzzle he's missing here. The inflation is not consumer prices. Okay, first of all, the consumer price index is a joke. It's not a pure, unmolested, untainted model that is actually reflecting an actual number. The CPI is also manipulated because it's based on data that's manipulated. Do you get it? It's like being Janet Yellen in the Fed. If you've been fed BS your entire life, you're going to go out there and spew BS in your FOMC meetings, okay? Because you've just been fed BS, like most quote-unquote economists. The inflation is not a consumer prices, it's an asset prices. We've seen that. But why is the inflation in the asset prices, folks? If you've been following this channel, you would know wholeheartedly that there's a lot of shenanigans. You see, everything that happens in the world today with the markets, it has everything to do with defending the dollar. Every derivative. Folks, if you've seen John Pilger's documentary, The War on Democracy, which I recommend you do. Now, Pilger is a liberal, but a great piece nonetheless. Go watch it. It is basically about the last 50 years of what the U.S. has done to overthrow over 30 democratically elected regimes throughout the world. That's called The War on Democracy. Now, one of the things when he was interviewing a former head CIA section chief, he said this. He said, this individual looked at Pilger and said this. He said, the American way of life is non-negotiable. Okay? The American way of life is non-negotiable. Now, you might feel a little bit good. You might see that. You might say to yourself, hey, maybe he's referring that to us. No. What he's saying behind the statement is that his way of life, the elite's way of life, the power brokers' way of life, those who call the shots, the shot callers' way of life, is non-negotiable. The deep state's power is non-negotiable. The security state's apparatchiks and their existence is non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable because what fuels them is the dollar. So if that is what fuels the machinery, it is what oils the gears. It is the explosive gunpowder on the residue of its military-industrial complex, right? It's the dollar. So the dollar has to be defended, non-negotiable. So when you're seeing prices, when you're seeing inflation and asset prices, it's not because there's actual demand. I mean, let's look at housing for a second. Lowest mortgage application rates since 1965. You still have tens of millions in shadow inventory. And this is the truth. I've had top real estate brokers contact me, email me, and tell me, V, you're dead on accurate. Top. There is a shadow inventory into the tens of millions. So why is asset prices going up? Well, we all know The Fed has been buying mortgage-backed securities for the last several years, and they haven't stopped. We know this. We know that they've been manipulating the real estate market, that the regulators and the banksters are walking in lockstep together. Why? Because the mortgage-backed securities has a lot of tie-in on the derivative market with the IR swaps. And the interest rate swap market has a tie-in with the repo markets, the repurchase order markets, and the repurchase order markets has a tie-in with the bond market. And so on and so forth does this juggling act goes until the pressures from overseas begins to have a pincer movement on the very mechanisms of fraud. And what is that pincer movement? That pincer movement, folks, is de-dollarization. Now, I've said this so many times. We went into 2015 with the dollar being de-dollarized left and right. We went into this era of de-dollarization. And that is creating the pressures where now you can't do the financial fraud anymore. You see, the banks are on the tripwire. The central bankers are running out of time. So all of a sudden, what do? You all know this. You all know this. You've been following this channel for quite some time. You all know that the physical economy is still in a state of decimation. The physical economy is still in a very decimated state. So what do? They take the football with clipped hair, a.k.a. Janet Yellen, and they parade her out in front of everyone during the FOMCs, and they say, and she says, because, you know, she's been in the system, like my buddy Ken Shorten would say, as long as Lyndon Baines Johnson, she's just been in the system forever, okay? And Yellen would come out, and they'd give a rate hike, and a rate hike, and a rate hike, and a rate hike. And this is what our buddy Jim Rickards is trying to get at. They're raising the interest rate now, not because there's some sort of real metric improvement within the economy. And if you believe that there is, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. What they're saying right now with these metrics, folks, is they're gearing the interest rates up because they're getting ready for the next kaboom. That next kaboom is right around the corner. Now, recent articles, Yale scholar Stephen Roche points out that between 2008 and 2017, the combined balance sheets of the central banks of the U.S., Japan, and the Eurozone expanded by $8.3 trillion, while the nominal GDPs in those economies expanded $2.1 trillion. Now I'm going to break that down a little further. The $8.3 trillion expansion is just the expansion that we know of that's on the books of these central banks. Okay. What we don't know is the hidey holes and the bolt holes that they've been dumping a lot of these dumped dollars into. We know through various sources that Euroclear and Clearstream were dumping grounds of USTs, U.S. Treasuries, dumping grounds in the tune of over $4 trillion in Euroclear. If you've been following me for quite some time, you know what Euroclear is. It was set up by J.P. Morgan in 1968 with the express purpose of setting up Euro bonds, which are now have created the European Union back in 2000. Okay. Euroclear is in over 98 countries, so we don't exactly know how they're shuffling all these dumped USTs around. We also know, thanks to guys like Jim Willey and his sources, that they've been dumping in not only Brussels, but also Liechtenstein and Ireland. They've been dumping also in the Cayman Islands, and they've been dumping wherever they can. So the 8.3 trillion is just what we know. Okay. And then you talk about the 2.1 trillion in nominal growth of the GDPs of these nations. The G7, folks, the vaunted G7, which the gorilla calls the insolvent seven. Okay? A cadre of broke, corrupt ne'er-do-wells who are pretending, a bunch of naked empires, a bunch of naked emperors who sit there and pretend that they still have power. You would know this. You would know this if you've been following me. You would know that the GDP numbers are nothing but bullshit. No other way of saying it. There's no other word that's more fitting to it, folks. The GDP. 50% of the GDP of this country is nothing but reshuffled debt. In the Eurozone, it's the same thing. It's reshuffled debt. In Japan, oh my God, what a basket case that economy is. Reshuffled debt. Folks, when you have a central bank that is propping up your real estate market, which is happening in the United States, which is happening in the Eurozone, which is happening in Japan. You have a central bank that is propping up your stock market, which is happening up in the United States, in the Eurozone, and in Japan. You all know that the Japanese central bank, the BOJ, the Bank of Japan, owns 65% of the Tokyo Stock Exchange. When you're relying upon a central bank's issuance or moving of a credit a few basis points here and there, you don't have an economy. And what you have is mental mystification. What you have is accounting gymnastics. There is no net growth in 2.1 trillion. There is nothing but, when you look at the real deal economies of the insolvent seven, aka the G7, you have nothing but contracting numbers. You have contracting numbers. John Williams of Shadow Stats eloquently puts it. It's probably a negative growth rate between 3 to 4% per year. And it hasn't stopped. If anything, it's probably accelerating. Okay? So this is the problem. The Fed raises rates supposedly without inflation. Higher real rates, and folks, anybody, again, if you re-engineer the numbers, kind of like what Dr. John Williams has done over at Shadow Stats, you would know the real inflation rates are between 9.3 and 10.7%. Real talk. Real talk, like my buddy Dex would say. Inflation would help diminish the real value of debt, but central banks have obviously proved impotent at generating inflation. Oh, they've created a lot of inflation. They're masters of inflation. They're masters of inflation and contraction. You can see that from the 29 stock market collapse. Okay, they're very good at it. So the point is this, folks. There is so much pressure right now in the markets. There is so much pressure built up that the slightest trigger will bring the entire thing down. Which ties us to our next article, Siege. Go ahead, man. You want to tackle that?
Yeah, let me bring it up here real quick. And we'll have to dig into the actual negotiation, what was signed here, but we have an article originally posted by Reuters. 11 countries to sign the landmark Trans-Pacific Trade Pact without the U.S. Obviously, at one time we backed out because this trade pact instituted a global court, if you will, that pretty much allowed, companies to operate without any risk of product liability, which, obviously is a huge concern, but also stipulated some agreements in regards to pharmaceuticals and mostly protecting U.S. pharmaceutical companies from any foreign competition. So now we're learning that 11 countries are expected to sign a landmark Asia-Pacific trade agreement in Santiago on Thursday as an antidote to the increasingly protectionist bent of the United States, which last year pulled out of this agreement. The comprehensive agreement will reduce tariffs in countries that together amount to more than 13% of the global economy, a total of 10 trillion. With the United States, it would have represented 40%. So this original 12-member agreement, known as a TPP, was thrown into limbo early last year when Trump withdrew, rightfully so, because of some of the language that was written in this. The final version of this will be released February 21st. In January, Trump told the World Economic Forum in Switzerland it was possible Washington might return to the pact if it got better. Again, the countries this represents, 11 member countries are Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, and Vietnam. Massive trade deal. And what I find very interesting in regarding this trade deal, is potentially what is the underlying tone of this. And I think that potentially could be a trade zone potentially created without dollar dominance. I haven't read it. I'm going to go research it, and we'll follow up on it. But it's just interesting to see all these countries moving forward with these trade agreements, these trade pacts, and really is leaving the U.S. isolated, alone, dying with the dollar.
That's what I've always said. The Atlantic and the Pacific that have been moats of protection for us during World War I and World War II will become the very moats of our own isolation. All this, whatever these new trade mutations that are happening throughout the world, from the ASEAN countries, even this whole entire thing with the defunct TPP members. TPP was a horrible, horrible thing. But because the U.S. is not doing it, what they did is these 11 countries that are signing it, they are basically re-engineering the wording. Okay, they've gotten rid of all the corporate provisions, and what they're doing is creating again a trade agreement amongst themselves. And I'm going to tell you right now, whatever the trade union they're going to create is going to tie in with the One Belt, One Road in some way. If you want any sort of legitimate trade zone or trade union, you have to tie it in with OBOR, the One Belt, One Road initiative. You just have to tie in with it. There's no getting around it. I mean, you'd be stupid not to. Okay, and what is the solution, man? I mean, I want us to negotiate on trade, but again, we don't have a physical economy built up. When you look at like half of the U.S. companies are right now, they're losing money because, I mean, think about it. There's a chart that's out, okay, and there's a percentage loss of firms from 1960 to 2016, and you're seeing a massive dive. The trend is down. The main findings are both curves, okay? The percentage losers from all companies increased 18% to 1980 to 46% in 2016. For tech companies, science-based companies, the losses have reached 69%. So where's the economic recovery in half of these companies that are reporting losses? Shouldn't a recovery be reflected in the increasing number of profitable companies? I mean, think about it. Like, what the heck's happening here, right? So when you look at that fact, and when you look at the fact that when you look at the darlings of Wall Street, your Amazons, your Apples, your Scroogles, your Netflix, and whatnot, how are their stocks so up? How is Amazon, a company that makes no money? They make no money. But Jeff Bezos, the bald-headed dingbat, walks around. I mean, I can't hate on Bezos. He's going to leverage whatever the hell he's going to have to leverage. But the point is this. He's not the richest man in the world. Okay, he's not. And if you think Bezos is the richest man in the world, you really don't know how things really work. You really don't. I'm sorry. Okay, that whole Forbes 100 list is a bunch of BS. It is complete BS. Bezos, or Bezos, however you want to, pronounce his name, he's basically worth that much on stock valuations, which is imaginary BS. I mean, look at Tesla.
Bingo. Absolutely.
All right, Tesla, you honestly think Tesla, who cannot even stick to a production schedule, who makes low quality crap with a marketing spin, who loses money on every single car they sell, who's really a carbon trading business. That's what they're into. They're into carbon trading until that's gone. Whose sheer existence is predicated on the fact of government subsidies and handouts. Do you really think Tesla is more valuable than GM? Are you freaking kidding me? Because some dingbat jerky boy in Wall Street gave a stock valuation? A stock value? It means nothing. It means nothing in reality. This is the same crap back in 2000 and 99, and 98, 99, and 2000 when like mothernature.com and what all these other .com bubble. Well, V, you don't understand. This company is worth $500 million, but they don't make anything. Oh, you don't understand, V. This is the new economy. I mean, Facebook. Facebook is a deep state operation. It is set up by a CIA front company, and if you don't know that, you don't know again how things work. You think Facebook is worth more than ExxonMobil? Are you freaking kidding me? I mean, are you freaking kidding me? This is the problem with Wall Street. But I'll tell you right now, you have 69% of losses that have reached 69% with these small companies. So we don't have a physical economy built up. We got all these trade. Do you see this is not a cozy picture? Maybe QAnon will have a breadcrumb for us to drop anytime soon. I mean, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, V, the other thing to point out with this is the fact that most companies like Amazon, like Facebook, the government, the federal government has been the biggest supporter of the majority of these companies. In other words, they do not function without the government deciding to pick and choose the winners and losers out there to the public domain. So without the company, without the big government money that's layered into these organizations, these companies, they're not a success. So we do have that merging of corporations and governments. And why does this happen? Well, why is over probably what is, I don't even know the most recent percentages. I think at one point it was like 53, maybe 63% of people in DC are multimillionaires. Yeah, absolutely. And they go there with these average jobs. Well, why? It's because the dollar, it's that corrupt, the dollar that's been utilized as a weapon and maintained for so long. And that's why they're going to fight. You imagine these millionaires in DC, the corruption, the amount of wealth that they have confiscated from the American people. Do you not think that they're going to fight like hell to try to protect that? You imagine the dollar losing the world reserve currency and then reporting to them, oh, by the way, you just lost 60 to 70% of your wealth because it's the top 1%, the elite that control the majority of money that flows through this country. No, things have got to change, V. They have to change.
And that's the whole entire thing, man. I mean, when you have a problem, the problem is, look at Washington, D.C. It is the richest zip code in the United States. And why is that? Because all the criminal cabal is there. It's all insider trading. That's how they get their money. How do you think a dingbat idiot like Nancy Pelosi, who came in with $120,000 a year, congresswoman salary, now the crazy psycho is worth about $200 million? I mean, come on. How's that even possible? I mean, you're being fleeced. And all I'm asking is for the average American to wake up and say, you know what? I'm tired of being screwed. How about that? I mean, do you understand these people have screwed you so bad that they're worth killing? I'm not advocating it. I mean, think about it. If somebody were to break into your house, hurt your family members, and try to rob you, and if you had a weapon, you'd kill them. You would shoot them dead. Well, that's what these people are doing. That is exactly what these people are doing to you. Anyway, man, what's next?
No, just real quick. I just threw up a statistic real quick. The median net worth of a member of Congress was $1,029,000 back in 2013, a 2.5% increase from 2012, compared with an average American household median net worth of $56,355. Once again, the majority of members of Congress are millionaires. And this was dated back to January 12th of 2015. Imagine what it is now. So at this date, over 50% were millionaires that sit in Congress. And these are the people to decide what breadcrumbs to feed us, V.
This is why we need to enact term limits and get these scumbags out of office with the quickness. They're not there to going to work on your behalf. Like I say, they hide their avarice towards you with their altruism. They're not there to make your world and make your life a better place. They are there to screw you over and to suck off as much. These people create nothing. These are people who are criminally insane. They cannot even run a lemonade stand, but they're there dictating your life. Get rid of all of them. All of them. So you there?
Yeah, I was pulling up an article and just realized I was muted. And shifting gears a little bit, V, and talking about the stupidity that we continue, our politicians continue. Samantha Power blames the collapse of the Italian establishment parties on who else but the mighty Vladimir Putin.
And this is the insanity of it is. You see the establishment losing power because right now you look at every single poll. The Italian population is moving towards a nationalistic, more center-right government than anything else. So the twits in power, like Cass Sunstein's wife here, Samantha the Harpy Powers, she was one of the four harpies that created the chaos in the Obama administration. You remember her. It was her, Hillary, Suzanne Rice, okay? It was I can't remember the other. Oh yeah, Valerie Jarrett. These were the 4 harpies of destruction. They're saying, "Oh, let the women run the world. It'll be a wonderful, beautiful, flowery place." Well, under the Obama administration, women ran the foreign policy, and look at the disaster we're in today. These are criminally insane women who ran the foreign policy. And now this nut job is saying that, oh, the reason why this is happening, the Italian elections, is because of Russia. Well, if Russia is behind every nationalistic election, then that's a good thing. That means there's less globalism, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But in the end of the day, this insanity has to stop. These morons are willing to threaten more war. These insane morons. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And every poll is, it's out there saying, how long would it be once a nationalist candidate wins? How long would it take for the establishment to say, oh, the Russians did it? Do you see how it's become fashionable? What is right now an inside running joke, even among Democrats, but this whole Trump-Russia collusion is now becoming something that the entire Western world is using. You got to get rid of these people. People like Samantha Power should be locked up in a nut house.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Insanity, man.
And one last thing to cover just real quickly is, we have more crumbs coming out, and this will be hyped up, and people will be like, oh, see, this is going to happen. The arrests are coming. So breaking information, the DOJ is set to announce Fast and Furious documents withheld by Eric Holder will be released. Folks, we're a year, 3 months into it. All of these things are just distractions. All of these things are just kicking that can down the road to lead the American people that thought things were going to change in DC to believe things are. It's just a distraction. It's just to build a little bit of hope, to put a little light that something is going to change. It's not. So what are they going to do? Release these documents and then send it to Congress for another oversight committee to review it and then potentially hand it off to someone else once again? It's a distraction, folks. It's all a distraction. That's all it is.
And what's going to become of it? Who's going to go to jail? No one. Not a single one. But no. The case must be made. It has to be built up, and then we got to do it slowly because the American public won't be able to handle it. F you guys who think that. No, what it is you can't handle it because you guys are a bunch of punks. Go ahead. Keep delaying the inevitable. Look, folks, the solution is not with these idiots and behind closed doors. The solution is not with people who are calling themselves QAnon, dropping breadcrumbs. It's stupid at this point. I'm sick of it. I don't want to see another Q drop. Nothing has happened. You still have false flags. You still have a mess in the Middle East. You still got Wall Street running rampant. You still got Hillary Clinton being rolled out at every award ceremony. That psycho piece of garbage is out right now frolicking in the snow in Chappaqua in the woods somewhere and taking staged photographs for Instagram or something. Yeah. Barack Obama is being serviced by ladyboys in Thailand for all I care. The pedestals are shopping for art pieces of children that look like garden gnomes so they can put it in their backyard. James Comey is sitting in a pizza shop in D.C. Andrew McCabe is getting a $2 million pension. And Peter Strzok, let's not forget about Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Remember that memo drop that came out a few weeks ago, CJ? The memo drop that's going to be perp-walking everybody, right?
Yeah.
What's Peter Strzok doing right now? He's sitting at his desk at the FBI headquarters, answering his emails, sipping coffee, and taking pictures of his genitals so he can send it to his horse-faced mistress named Lisa Page. And what's Lisa Page doing? She's probably in the break room texting Peter Strzok. The break room that's in the J. Edgar Hoover building in Washington, D.C. You think these people are losing sleep because somebody who's LARPing? At this point, it might as well be LARPing, live action role playing.
Right. Absolutely.
Some of these anonymous chants. Oh, Q, don't worry. Q's gonna drop something, and the Q group is gonna say this, and really. So yeah, so you go on these message boards and you preach to the choir. How does that help anything? You're preaching to the choir at the end of the day. Like, I'm done with it. I don't want to see another. Don't talk to me about this QAnon bullshit. I'll believe it when they have handcuffs on people.
Absolutely, V. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, they're going to release a memo on Holder, and what? And what? What's going to happen? Nothing. Nothing. They're going to put on a dog and pony show for you. It's like what Gerald Celente used to say. It's like the WWE. They all act like they're all hate each other and that they're all enemies. And at the end of the day, they're all out having dinner together and having drinks. There's not going to be a change until the American man. Remember what I say this, and I'm very, very freaking clear about what I say. And notice I didn't say woman. This changes when real men stand up. Say enough is enough. And all you hear is and they march down to D.C. They encircle the Capitol. They walk into the Capitol building, demand the Sergeant of Arms to call a session of Congress, which by law, you can't do that. You can by law, constitutional right. You can demand the Sergeant of Arms to call a meeting, bring out the Congress, and fire all of them. Take back the country. That's it. That's the Hail Mary play. And we only need maybe 1%, maybe 3% of the population to do that.
That's it.
Because 3% of the population is what won this war, that won this country. Folks, do you see this? I mean, is it into your spirit? Because it saddens me. If Washington and Jefferson and Franklin and Adams and Hancock and Ethan Allen and all these guys were alive today, you know what they'll say to you? What the hell are you all doing? Why are you comfortable with this tyranny? Why are you comfortable with this corruption? Enough's enough. There's nobody coming to save you. You got to do it yourself. Now, whatever the shenanigans they got going on in the Trump administration and with the rest of government, understand one thing. They've bought you some time. That's the only good thing that I see in this whole entire thing, CJ.
Correct, absolutely.
They bought you some time. You might have another, 4 to 6 years, maybe 3 to 5 years. But you got some time in order to make money, and you've been handed, thank God, not because of government, but because of creative individuals. You've been given a printing press. You might say, where is your printing press? I have a printing press. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. I'm letting everybody in America know that you have your own personal printing press. It's called cryptocurrencies. You can learn how to mine it. You can learn how to trade it. You can learn how to profit from it. You can learn how to use it. And then some of the most enterprising and smartest of you can actually develop platforms in which we can divorce ourselves and cut the umbilical cord to using any sort of institution that these deep staters put out for us. All I'm asking you folks is this. We have the technology, we have the brains, we have the talent, we have the resources. All I'm asking all of you out there, all I'm asking for the American public is to grow a pair of balls. I have balls. CJ's got balls. Why do we have balls? Because we're freaking figuring out solutions. It kills me. People go into bankruptcy. They go into debt. They feel, are you American Express? I laugh at that. You should too, because it's a game. You shouldn't be stressed out over make-believe debt. Are you kidding me? My wife is going to leave me because my MasterCard is $20,000 and $50,000 and I'm $100,000 in debt and I can't. I just have foreclosure and bankruptcy. That's fixable. All of it. I don't know how to trade. I don't know how to learn cryptocurrency. Well, that's fixable too. And soon we're going to roll out a solution in the next coming weeks that's going to blow your mind away. Been working on it for years. I solved that problem that everybody who trades cryptos, and no matter what crypto it is running into. I solved it. I figured it out. Why? Because I've been working in this industry for I just put 2 and 2 together from my past. And wait till it comes out. That takes courage to do it. See, in order for you to live this life, you could be the sucker. You could be the sucker middle class who gets screwed by the poor, the hustling poor. See, folks, I always said this. Everybody's got a hustle. The wealthy has a hustle. The poor have a hustle. The only one that don't have a hustle is you, the middle class. You're the sucker that foots the bill for them both. So you could be a sucker or you could be a gorilla. You can be a sucker or you can go rogue. What's it going to be? You could learn the systems. You could figure out for yourself, hey, you know what? I could break all the rules so long as I don't break the law. You can find out all the loopholes. And I'm not talking about, I need to go file a UCC paper and then I got to go claim my straw man, and then I'm not going to pay my taxes, and then I'm going to go to court and say, F you, judge, I'm not crossing this bar because I'm a sovereign citizen, because you go that route, you will find yourself in an inside of a jail cell very quickly. Okay? That legalese BS that everybody says that they've cracked the code on, and nobody's living it that way. I've seen more people go to prison because of that nonsense. And that's why you got to be like guys like Mr. X that we have on. That's why you got to be like me. Hide in plain sight. Like John. And who gave us the example to how to live like this? Well, Rockefeller, Rothschild. They've already laid out the template for you. It's called, on paper, you own nothing, but you control everything. Let that be your example. Time for you to get smart, people. You got maybe 3 to 5 years to get this right. 3 to 5 years. Let's see what happens. Siege, go ahead, man.
Yeah, so big day today at Rogue, so 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully we're going to be getting with Dex and delivering the Trading Terradome. And then obviously don't forget, set your calendars, your reminders, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Gus Demos will be joining us for Cuss with Gus. So big day at Rogue. Stay tuned right here. Lots of great things going on. Right now, it's all about individual power. Empower yourselves. Vote for yourself. Invest your time, energy, and there's lots of distractions out there. Now's the time to be trying to shut down those distractions. Focus on your family, your health, your life. Get those ducks in order because, again, we want the best for all of us out there, V.
Absolutely. You have a tremendous opportunity right now to build the greatest amount of wealth you've ever seen. Freaking take advantage of it, man. Whatever, if you're spending hours on these freaking internet boards reading conspiracy theories, screw that crap. Invest in yourself, invest in your own education, learn how to make money because this opportunity is not going to happen again. Empower yourself, folks. Make it happen. With that being said, go Rogue. We're over and out. Take it away, CJ.